Get ready to witness some serious structural stumbles. You've probably driven over or under these massive marvels without a second thought. But today we're diving into the jaw-dropping moments when buildings and bridges came crashing down. From shaky foundations to faulty designs, we're counting down 15 epic construction fails that will leave you speechless. First up at number 15, the Second Narrows Bridge, where a combination of human error and bad luck led to a catastrophic collapse that'll make your heart skip a beat. Buckle up for this tragic tale. On June 17, 1958, disaster struck when the Second Narrows Bridge took a devastating plunge into Bird Inlet. The initial mishap was sparked by a faulty crane that was supposed to connect two bridge sections. But things quickly spiraled out of control. It turned out that this wasn't just a one-time fluke. Multiple factors contributed to the catastrophe, including subpar materials, sloppy engineering, and a temporary support beam that was woefully inadequate for its weight. The horrific accident claimed 18 lives and left the community reeling. Years later, in 1994, it'd be renamed in honor of those who lost their lives, now standing as the Iron Workers Memorial Second Narrows Crossing. Get ready for a heart-stopping incident from Cologne, Germany. In 2009, the quest for an underground metro line took a deadly turn when it caused the entire Cologne City Archives building to come crashing down. Yes, you read that right. This avoidable disaster resulted in 2 lives lost and an astonishing $1 billion in damages. The investigation revealed that a poorly built subway station diaphragm wall had unleashed a flood of water, sand, and gravel beneath the archive building, ultimately eroding its foundations and turning it into rubble. Thousands of irreplaceable documents were lost in this catastrophic collapse, making it one of the most egregious cases of construction-related negligence Cologne has ever seen. Hold on tight for this Boston blunder. In April 2006, at Emerson College, what started as a routine scaffolding teardown turned into a terrifying free fall. Here's how workers were dismantling the structure, but they left out a crucial step: securing it to a crane before removing the final tie. This reckless move had a massive 3-ton platform hanging by a thread 30 meters in the air, and guess what happened next? A stray tarp caught some wind and kaboom! The entire scaffold came crashing down into the street below. Talk about a construction fail that will leave you breathless. Get ready for a century-old construction catastrophe. On December 16, 1905, London's Charing Cross subway took an unexpected turn. A 20-meter steel beam, that's as long as 2 school buses side by side, suddenly gave way, sending it crashing onto the platform below like a giant metal claw. The aftermath was devastating. Most of the iron and glass structures came tumbling down too, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. This epic fail serves as a harsh reminder that even maintenance can sometimes go terribly wrong. Buckle up for another shocking tale of construction chaos. The Charing Cross subway disaster was a wake-up call, causing 6 deaths and 27 injuries when wooden boxcars got smashed on that fateful day. But here's the kicker. It all started with a weak link in the scaffolding chain. Too much weight from construction materials triggered a domino effect, and before you could say platform collapse, the entire station roof came crashing down. It's a brutal reminder that safety first should always be at the top of the to-do list. But let's move on to our next mind-blowing entry. Number 11, the Lahore-Multan Railway Incident, where construction went from building up to taking it all down. Get ready for a historical heartbreak. Imagine strolling through the remnants of a 4,500-year-old city. That's what visitors can do in Harappa, Pakistan, home to the ancient civilization that once flourished there. But here's where things take a devastating turn when British builders laid out the Lahore-Multan railway tracks. They didn't just level some land, they literally took apart this priceless archaeological site. That's right, Thousands of precious bricks from Harappa were repurposed as railway ballast, leaving behind a fraction of what was once an intact ancient city. Today, we're counting down to number 10. Another construction catastrophe that'll leave you speechless. You won't believe this construction fail. Lotus Riverside in Shanghai, China, seemed like an idyllic apartment complex until the digging began. To add underground parking, builders excavated a massive hole, but instead of handling the removed soil responsibly, they took it to a dump site right next to a creek. Think about it. What's supposed to be a solid foundation for homes was actually turning into a recipe for disaster. But here's where things take a dramatic turn, literally. The massive pile of dirt from the parking garage ended up destabilizing the riverbank, letting water flood into the ground beneath Block 7. You'd think that would have been a clear sign to stop construction, but nope, they kept going. And guess what? The soggy soil couldn't handle the weight of the entire apartment block. So on June 27, 2009, disaster struck. The building came crashing down, claiming one life in its wake. Get ready for one of the most jaw-dropping construction accidents. The New York crane disaster. Picture this: a towering 76-meter crane, suspended high above Manhattan streets, suddenly comes crashing down on March 15, 2008. What were workers up to at that fateful moment? They were busy adding extra support by tying beams between the crane and the 18th floor of the building. Little did they know their lives would soon be in free fall as well. Let's break down what went wrong on that fateful day. A combination of risks that spelled disaster. No mobile crane was used for support, which already pushed the limits of their plan. But it didn't stop there. The team chose polyester slings, incredibly weak for this high-stakes job, and, to make matters worse, they weren't even protected from sharp edges. It's little wonder the crane gave way, taking 7 lives with it in the New York crane disaster. What's even more astonishing is that William Rapetti, the crane rigger in charge, faced 14 counts of manslaughter but walked free. His admission of not inspecting the slings used might have led many to think justice would be served, yet he managed to avoid a guilty verdict. Get ready for another jaw-dropping tale of cost-cutting gone wrong, this time in India's Greater Noida. What you're about to hear is a construction story that will make your jaw drop even harder than the ill-prepared materials used here. The plan was ambitious. An apartment building that promised much but delivered little in terms of safety and quality control. To save money, the contractors opted for the bare minimum, literally. They reduced the essential cement to sand ratio from the standard 1:5 down to a shocking 1:20. Meanwhile, the iron beams, meant to support the entire structure, were alarmingly thin at just 10 to 12 millimeters instead of the recommended 22 to 25 millimeters. You can guess what happened next. But let's not jump ahead. We'll explore the aftermath in our next point. Let's shift gears and dive into one of the world's most devastating dam disasters, the Malpasat Dam catastrophe in Spain. Imagine a colossal wall of water crashing down with no warning, claiming hundreds of lives in an instant. That was what happened on December 2nd, 1959, when the Malpasat Dam suddenly gave way, unleashing its full fury on the unsuspecting town below. The massive flood that ensued would go down as one of the deadliest dam failures in history, and it's a sobering reminder of how crucial location scouting is in such ambitious engineering projects. But what exactly went wrong here? That's for our next point. Now, let's switch gears and take a closer look at another engineering disaster, the dam that was literally sitting on shaky ground. The French Riviera's Rérun River was home to the Malpasat Dam, built in 1954 with what seemed like solid blueprints. But unbeknownst to its creators, it stood on top of a tectonic plate. When explosives were used during construction, they unwittingly caused long-term damage to this unstable rock layer. Adding insult to injury, builders also constructed the dam over an incredibly dense and impermeable gneiss rock, creating a trap that caught water flowing diagonally underneath, making it even more prone to collapse. It wasn't until years later, when cracks began forming, that alarm bells should have started ringing. Yet, the government failed to act, leaving this ticking time bomb waiting to unleash its fury on the unsuspecting public. Let's dive into a sobering reality: how lax building regulations can lead to devastating consequences. The Akura Hotel collapse is a stark reminder of this. Back in January 2011, what was supposed to be a high-rise hotel in Nigeria came crashing down due to some seriously dodgy construction practices. A key issue here was the subpar quality of cement used. It simply wasn't doing its job right. When you look closer, you'll see that the cement mix was unevenly distributed throughout the building structure, like a house of cards waiting to fall. This lack of proper oversight is a common problem in many developing countries where resources are limited and regulations aren't strictly enforced. It's a harsh lesson. When corners are cut on safety and quality, lives can literally be at stake. Here's a new take on that part of the script, but that's not all. There were several more red flags in this construction project gone wrong. For starters, the steel reinforcement bars were woefully inadequate. They were much too thin to bear the weight of the materials being used. It's like building a skyscraper on quicksand. To make matters even worse, the people designing the hotel had no formal architectural training whatsoever. That's right, zero education in building design. So, you can imagine how things didn't quite add up. The bottom line: if only basic regulations and safety standards were followed here, this tragedy could have been prevented entirely. Let's dive into one of history's most striking examples of what can go wrong: the infamous Quebec Bridge. This massive engineering project was first conceptualized back in 1887, aiming to link Quebec City with Lévis, with the Savin Lawrence River flowing majestically beneath it. But little did they know, their vision would become a cautionary tale of construction gone horribly awry, as this bridge wouldn't just fall once, no, it collapsed twice due to some seriously flawed design and building techniques. Now, let's fast forward to 1907, the year when things took a devastating turn for the Quebec Bridge project. It was then that the team on site realized their calculations had been majorly off base. The bridge was actually way too heavy for its own good and was starting to buckle under pressure. By the time they spotted these distortions, it was too late. Disaster struck on August 29th, when a massive chunk of the south arm and part of the central section came crashing down. The tragic aftermath left 75 workers dead and 11 others seriously injured, making this one of history's most shocking construction site accidents. An investigation followed, but here's the kicker: those behind the faulty calculations let off with barely a slap on the wrist. This grim outcome forced a brand new team to start from scratch, constructing an entirely new bridge from the ground up. A sobering reminder that even today, safety protocols and checks are crucial in preventing such tragedies. But the Quebec Bridge's bad luck just wouldn't quit. On September 11th, 1916, disaster struck once again when the machinery lifting the central part of the bridge gave way, sending that section plummeting into the water below and claiming another 13 lives. Just like before, an investigation followed, but this time around, no one was held accountable for the tragedy. What's even more astonishing is that despite two major accidents, construction didn't come to a halt. It actually resumed soon after the second collapse. It took a whole lot of extra resources and determination, but finally, in August 1919, the Quebec Bridge stood tall, its third time's charm for sure. Let's dive into one of the US's most devastating construction catastrophes, the Willow Island disaster. On April 27, 978, a cooling tower at West Virginia's Pleasance Power Station came crashing down in a tragic chain reaction. At the time, the tower had already reached an impressive 51 meters high when disaster struck. A crucial cable holding a concrete bucket snapped, sending the crane hauling it plummeting towards the tower. This catastrophic event sent the previous day's concrete pouring out of control, and the rest, as they say, is history, but not a happy one. Let's break down what really went wrong at Willow Island, a construction site in West Virginia where disaster struck on April 27, 1978. A chain reaction began when a crane, modified without the proper safety checks, gave way under the weight of concrete it was lifting. The weakened crane crashed into the tower, triggering a massive domino effect. Concrete, wooden supports, and metal scaffolding started peeling off at an alarming rate, eventually crashing to the ground with devastating force. Sadly, this catastrophe resulted in the loss of 51 lives. Investigations later revealed 3 critical factors that led up to this tragedy: unauthorized crane modifications, daily concrete pours despite concrete needing more time to harden, and a clear disregard for safety measures all played their part in one of the US's worst construction disasters. But let's shift gears to another alarming case that highlights the importance of rigorous safety checks: the Glenmoat Dam in Ireland. Imagine a scenario where inadequate planning, flawed design, and reckless decision-making put hundreds at risk. Unfortunately, this is exactly what happened during construction. Workers were exposed to hazardous conditions due to a poorly designed drainage system, which allowed water to seep into critical areas of the dam. The outcome could have been catastrophic if not for a group of vigilant engineers who sounded the alarm, prompting an immediate evacuation and rectification work. This harrowing incident served as a stark reminder that safety protocols must never be compromised in construction projects. Human lives depend on it. Now, let's dive into a tragic tale of construction gone horribly wrong: the Glenmoat Dam disaster in Ireland. In an astonishing display of reckless disregard for safety and best practices, the builders of this dam made a series of fatal blunders that would lead to one of history's most devastating man-made tragedies. Just 40 days after breaking ground, the entire dam came crashing down, unleashing a massive flood that claimed over 350 lives in nearby villages. The investigation revealed a staggering array of errors. Subpar cement mortar was used, which hadn't even set properly before water was added. Instead of modern reinforcement materials, they employed WWMI-era anti-grenade netting. Think of using fishing nets to hold up the Hoover Dam, and perhaps most shockingly, the dam's design was drastically altered mid-construction, setting the stage for disaster. This catastrophic failure should serve as a dire warning. Even one miscalculation in construction can have devastating consequences. Let's hit pause on the Glenmoat Dam disaster and jump to another harrowing tale of construction gone awry: the Thane building collapse in India. Unlike other buildings we've explored, this one takes the cake as an unapproved, entirely illegal structure. Despite plans for a substantial apartment building, the architects never submitted blueprints to local authorities, leaving out crucial safety checks and emergency protocols. As a result, the building was home to 150 residents without ever receiving the necessary occupancy permit. This staggering oversight not only put countless lives at risk, but also underscores the importance of strict regulations and proper planning in construction projects. The fact that warning signs were ignored due to fear of losing jobs only adds to this cautionary tale. The Thane building collapse was just one of many disasters waiting to happen in this Indian city, plagued by a housing shortage that led builders to cut corners and flout safety regulations. The architect behind this tragedy had no formal training whatsoever, yet was still entrusted with designing the building, a recipe for disaster from the very start. Add subpar materials and zero adherence to safety protocols, And it's a wonder more lives weren't lost when the structure came crashing down on April 4th, 2013. The scale of this problem in Thane is staggering, with an estimated 500,000 illegal buildings dotting the landscape, each one a ticking time bomb just waiting for its chance to strike. It's a stark reminder that in our pursuit of affordable housing, we must never sacrifice safety and quality in the process. The Hawks Nest Tunnel in West Virginia might have dodged the collapse bullet, but its story isn't entirely a happy one. There's a dark secret lurking beneath its surface. Completed as part of a hydroelectric project back in the day, it's still up and running today. But here's the thing. The location was chosen without considering the deadly consequences. And when we say deadly, we mean exactly that. Thousands of workers lost their lives due to silica dust exposure while building this very tunnel. The devastating impact of this avoidable tragedy serves as a stark reminder that even with successful projects, poor planning and negligence can have disastrous long-term effects. Imagine being forced to dig your own grave with every breath you take. Oh, that's what happened to hundreds of African American laborers back in 1930 during the construction of the Hawks Nest Tunnel. With the U.S. stuck in the Great Depression, these workers had no choice but to risk their lives mining silica-contaminated sandstone for a steel processing industry that needed it desperately. No masks, no breathing equipment, just drills and dynamite in 10-15-hour shifts that turned their lungs into ticking time bombs. The result? Silicosis, a debilitating lung disease that would forever change the course of these workers' lives. This is a sobering reminder of how greed can lead to unimaginable human cost when safety takes a backseat. The toll was staggering. Nearly 1/3 of the 3,000 workers who took part in building the Hawks Nest Tunnel lost their lives due to silicosis, with some estimates suggesting an even higher number. This devastating project stands as one of the darkest chapters in American construction history, and its legacy is a cautionary tale of what can happen when people are pushed to their limits for the sake of progress. But out of this tragedy came a beacon of hope. New laws were enacted to protect workers from similar fates, ensuring that future generations